Picture this, right? You have the architect of Brexit, easily one of the most seasoned, recognized, and honestly controversial politicians in British history.
Yeah.
Just standing on an electoral debate stage.
Oh, yeah, he's got the tailored suit, the heavily rehearsed talking point.
Exactly, the absolute gravitas of a career spent entirely in the public eye, and his primary challenger for a seat in Parliament. It's a 5,900-year-old intergalactic space warrior with a literal trash can on his head.
Yep. Welcome to the Clacton by-election. It is, well, it's the absolute definition of political theater just reaching a breaking point.
It really is. And we are thrilled you're joining us for today's deep dive because we are heading straight into the coastal town of Clacton-on-Sea, where this sudden, super high-stakes local election has morphed into a completely unprecedented two-horse race.
I mean, when you look at the electoral landscape of the UK right now, we are seeing scenarios play out that defy, like, every conventional model of how a Democratic campaign is supposed to function.
Right. On one side, you have Nigel Farage, the leader of the right-wing populist reform UK party. And on the other side, you have a satirical sci-fi character who goes by the name Count Binface.
A man in a cape and a bin mask is currently the most prominent challenger to a major political figure. It sounds like a fever dream, but it's currently dominating national television and the broadsheets.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And today's stack of sources is just as wild as the story itself. We're drawing from in-depth reporting by The Guardian. We've got international perspectives from the Greek publication Athens Voice, which is fascinating.
Oh, the international angle is crucial here.
Definitely. And we are also pulling heavily from television interview transcripts. So we've got bits from BBC Newsnight, Good Morning Britain, LBC, and BBC News.
So we've got a really comprehensive view of how the media is handling this.
We do. And before we really get into it, I need to say this. Because our sources today deal with politically charged content involving both left-wing and right-wing figures and parties, we want to make it absolutely clear to you that we are not taking any sides.
Right, exactly.
We are impartially reporting on the content provided to convey the events, facts, and ideas contained in the original source material. We aren't endorsing anyone, earthly or extraterrestrial.
Our objective is entirely analytical today. We're just looking at the mechanics of this bizarre situation.
Exactly. So the mission for today's deep dive is to unpack exactly how a local election turned into this surreal standoff between a seasoned populist and a parody character. And, what this actually reveals about the current state of democracy, campaign finance, and media spectacle.
So we have to start with the inciting incident, right? The bombshell that triggered this whole circus.
Yeah, let's get into it, the resignation.
Right. So Nigel Farage, the 62-year-old leader of Reform UK, abruptly resigned as the Member of Parliament for Clacton.
Which is wild because he's only represented this constituency since 2024. So this is an incredibly sudden departure.
It really is.
For anyone listening who might not be intimately familiar with the mechanics of the UK parliamentary system, let's just quickly break down what this actually means. When an MP resigns midway through their term, the seat doesn't just stay empty, right?
No, not at all. And the party doesn't just get to appoint a replacement either. It instantly triggers a by-election.
Right.
A by-election is a localized midterm election held in a single constituency to fill a sudden vacancy. It is a highly compressed, highly scrutinized campaign.
Like a political pressure cooker.
Exactly. But the critical context here is why Farage chose to trigger this mechanism in the first place. I mean, he didn't resign for health reasons or, to spend more time with his family.
No. He stepped down because he is facing a deepening, incredibly serious investigation by the National Crime Agency, the NCA.
Right. And the numbers involved in this investigation are staggering, especially when you put them in the context of British politics.
Yeah. Our sources highlight scrutiny over millions of pounds in financial gifts. Specifically, they're focusing on a £5 million cryptocurrency donation from wealthy supporters.
Which is a massive red flag.
Let's pause here and explain the how and why of this, because £5 million might not sound like a lot to someone who's, say, accustomed to American presidential campaigns.
Oh, sure. Where super PACs throw around hundreds of millions of dollars without blinking.
Right. So why is this £5 million crypto influx setting off literally every alarm bell in London?
Well, it really comes down to the fundamental architecture of UK campaign finance law. Unlike the United States, the UK has incredibly strict, legally binding limits on how much money can be spent during an election.
And it's not just about spending limits, right?
Exactly. More importantly, there are stringent requirements on transparency. every single donation over a certain threshold must be meticulously declared to the Electoral Commission.
You have to prove exactly where the money came from.
Yes, you have to prove that the donor is on the UK electoral register and that the funds are legitimate.
Basically, it's designed to prevent untraceable dark money from buying influence in British elections.
Precisely. And that is where cryptocurrency introduces a massive systemic headache for regulators. Crypto, by its very nature, is decentralized and often deliberately anonymized.
Right, it's on the blockchain. People use wallets that don't have their real names attached.
Exactly. So tracing the true origin of a £5 million crypto donation requires intense forensic accounting.
So when the National Crime Agency gets involved, it suggests that the standard electoral checks just weren't enough.
Right. The NCA investigates serious, organized, and complex economic crime. Their involvement means they are actively trying to untangle a digital ledger to ensure foreign money or illicit funds haven't breached the firewall of British democracy.
Wow. Okay, so Farage is staring down the barrel of a major federal-level investigation into this massive influx of digital cash. How does he frame this to the public?
He goes entirely on the offensive.
Right, he goes on television and claims he did absolutely nothing wrong under the rules.
He labels the investigation a witch hunt and a political tool used by the establishment.
His argument is essentially, Reform UK is leading in the polls, we are a threat to the status quo, and so the powers that be are weaponizing the NCA to take me down.
By resigning and forcing this by-election, he is attempting to completely reframe the entire narrative. He's telling the voters of Clacton, this is the people versus the establishment.
A very calculated tactical maneuver.
Highly calculated, and the reaction from the major political players was swift and, frankly, unprecedented.
Yeah, the Conservative Party, the Labour Party, and the Liberal Democrats all announced a complete and total boycott of the by-election.
They flat out refused to field candidates. They publicly called Farage's resignation a pure stunt meant to distract from the financial investigation.
And they just refused to participate in this stunt.
Right.
Think about this like a professional wrestling storyline for a second. It's like the reigning heel champion, the bad guy everyone loves to boo, demanding a sudden, unscheduled title defense in the middle of the ring.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
But all the other wrestlers refuse to come out of the locker room. They boycott the match because they know it's a trap designed for TV ratings. They don't want to legitimize the match.
That's actually a great analogy. The major parties looked at the electoral ring, saw the media trap Farage had set, and decided the only winning move was not to play.
They calculated that fighting him would only legitimize his claim that the establishment was out to get him.
But, we really have to look at the flaw in that strategy.
I totally agree. Let's push back on the wisdom of the boycott. Because if you boycott to avoid giving him a spectacle, aren't you just handing him exactly what he wants?
Yes, an unopposed narrative.
Exactly. You're letting him stand in the center of that ring, holding the microphone all by himself, telling the national television audience that he is the only one brave enough to actually face the voters.
By abandoning the field, the political establishment actively validates his claim that he's the only real alternative.
So the strategy kind of backfires.
It's a gaping vulnerability. When the establishment vacates the field, they don't erase the spectacle. They just surrender control of it.
Man, that's a great point.
Farage is executing a textbook application of narrative misdirection. By resigning, he shifts the conversation entirely.
Instead of reporters hounding him with complex, damaging questions about blockchain ledgers and NCA subpoenas,
the media is forced to cover a localized popularity contest. He changes the game from a question of financial compliance to a question of a charismatic mandate.
He effectively puts the investigation on mute and turns up the volume on his own campaign rallies.
It is a hallmark of modern global populism.
Yeah.
And the panel on BBC Newsnight made a very astute historical and international comparison here.
Oh, right, the Marine Le Pen comparison.
Yes. They liken Farage's tactics directly to those of Marine Le Pen in France. There is a distinct, observable pattern among populist leaders.
Which is what?
Well, when they run afoul of complex parliamentary rules or institutional norms, they do not apologize, and they do not engage with the minutiae of the legal inquiry.
They elevate themselves into martyrs instead.
Exactly. They present the investigation not as an inquiry into their personal conduct, but as an oppressive, elitist establishment trying to silence the voice of the ordinary people they claim to represent.
It's like a political judo move. You use the institutional weight of the investigation against the investigators.
That's exactly what it is.
And the Greek publication, Athens Voice, actually provides some incredible ground-level context on how this judo move is landing in Clacton itself.
The Athens Voice reporting is crucial because it reminds us that the electorate isn't a monolith, right?
Yeah, they sent reporters into Clacton and found that a significant portion of residents genuinely feel Farage is being unfairly targeted by a remote London elite.
To those voters, the martyr narrative works flawlessly. They believe he will win the by-election easily because they see him as their singular defender against a rigged system.
But on the flip side, Athens Voice also notes that plenty of other residents see right through the maneuver.
Right, they view the sudden resignation as pure political tacticism.
A vanity project, basically. An exercise in personal promotion that does absolutely nothing to fix the actual local issues in the coastal town of Clacton.
Which creates a fascinating structural void. The major parties have vanished. The serious challengers are gone.
Farage is just standing alone in the spotlight, expecting a coronation by a divided town.
But nature abhors a vacuum, and political media absolutely despises a one-sided race.
They really do. And into that vacuum steps a 5,900-year-old recyclon from the planet Sigma-9.
It's just so bizarre.
Let's talk about the anomaly. Let's talk about Count Binface.
The moment the serious establishment party stepped back, Count Binface stepped forward, instantly turning a potential one-man monologue into a highly publicized, deeply surreal two-horse race.
For those of you listening who aren't familiar with the deeply eccentric, strangely beautiful lore of British parody candidates, let me give you some context.
Please do.
Count Binface is the creation of John Harvey, who is a comedian from Lewisham in southeast London. And this guy isn't just a flash in the pan.
No, he's a seasoned veteran of the ballot box.
He has actively run against 3 former prime ministers. He took on Theresa May under his previous moniker, Lord Buckethead. He ran against Boris Johnson. He even ran against the newly elected Prime Minister, Keir Starmer.
He functions as a sort of recurring comedic stress test for the British political system.
I love that description.
There is a long, rich history in the UK of satirical candidates dating back to, Screaming Lord Such and the official monster raving loony party in the 1980s and 90s.
They used the low barrier of entry in British elections to inject absurdity into highly serious moments.
Right. And his recent track record is brilliant.
Oh, it's amazing. Just before this Clacton chaos erupted, he was sharing a stage with Labour's Andy Burnham at the Macclesfield by-election.
And when the BBC asked him how he did, he proudly announced he secured exactly 95 votes.
Yes. He called it a Dolly Parton 95.
It's a layered, perfectly executed pop culture joke, working 9 to 5.
It's so stupid, but so clever. So he's just finished this Macclesfield campaign, right?
Yeah.
According to his own elaborate sci-fi lore, he was on his starship, the Alberto, heading back to his home planet for a rest, when he hears the news about Farage's resignation via the interstellar ether.
Naturally.
He tells the press he was forced to perform a swift U-turn. And even in describing this mechanical space maneuver, he manages to land a political punch.
What did he say?
He said he, quote, made like Keir Starmer did one of those lovely jabs and zoomed back to Earth.
That sentence right there is the essence of why the character works so effectively.
Right.
He blends completely absurd, campy sci-fi mythology, the starship Alberto, the recyclons of Sigma-X with highly specific, razor-sharp critiques of current political figures.
Like calling a sudden change in direction a Keir Starmer jab.
Yes! It highlights the current prime minister's reputation for policy U-turns and political maneuvering, all while remaining entirely in character as an alien spaceship commander.
I want you to just imagine the sheer cognitive dissonance of being a Clacton voter right now.
It must be exhausting.
You wake up, you grab your morning coffee, you open the local paper, and you realize your only viable choices for parliamentary representation are a man currently embroiled in a multi-million-pound cryptocurrency scandal that requires forensic tracing, or a man dressed in a metallic cape with a literal trash receptacle on his head who wants to cap the price of soft-serve ice cream. That is your democratic reality.
As Binface himself put it during his interview with The Guardian, people might be waking up thinking they stayed up too late watching the England versus Mexico World Cup match.
Right.
They haven't had enough sleep, and they are living in a giant collective fever dream.
A group hallucination. He even joked on Newsnight that maybe this entire election is just a giant publicity stunt for the next Christopher Nolan movie.
It is incredibly self-aware.
And I love how he handles the media when they try to catch him out on standard adversarial political journalism questions. Like on Good Morning Britain, the anchors tried to press him.
They asked, do you even know the constituency? Have you ever actually been to Clacton?
a question that would normally cause a parachuted-in politician to stumble and prevaricate.
Oh, absolutely. They'd panic. But Binface leaned entirely into the deficit.
He admitted on national television that he has been to Clacton, quote, precisely 0 times.
But his reasoning is absolute genius.
It really is. He said he deliberately stayed away because he was just following protocol.
Protocol.
Yeah, he looked at the current incumbent, Nigel Farage, and noticed Farage spends a massive amount of his time traveling to Washington, D.C. to support American politicians or, flying off to Thailand.
Ah, I see.
So Binface logically concluded that staying out of the constituency entirely must be the official way to represent Clacton.
That is wow. We have to ask, why is the parody candidate such a prominent and effective tool in this specific matchup?
Well, the Newsnight panel made a brilliant observation about the mechanics of satire here.
What did they say?
They noted that Nigel Farage rose to power through highly performative populist tactics. He is a showman.
Right. He gets attention by breaking the mold, being loud, holding up a pint of beer in a pub while railing against elites, and just defying institutional norms.
So let's dig into that. When you are a showman who thrives on being the center of attention, traditional, stiff politicians often struggle to combat you.
Because they are playing by the rules of a debate club, while you are playing by the rules of reality TV.
Exactly. Traditional politicians try to fight populism with white papers and statistics, which often fails to capture the public imagination.
But Binface is the perfect foil for Farage because Binface is more performative.
He's more populist, albeit in a literal, absurd sense, like promising things everyone universally wants, like cheaper ice cream, but logistically can't have.
And ultimately, as the panel pointed out, Binface is much funnier. He beats the populist at his own game of spectacle.
It's like bringing a whoopee cushion to a high-stakes poker game. Farage is sitting there, trying to bluff with a very serious face, trying to project this aura of the besieged man of the people.
But Binface breaks the tension of the room so completely that the bluff falls apart.
He uses the sheer, undeniable absurdity of his character to hold up a mirror and highlight the underlying absurdity of the real political situation.
When an alien points out your flaws, it somehow stings more because you can't use your normal political defenses.
Right. You can't accuse a trash can of being part of the woke elite.
And that mirror effect, that disruption of the expected political rhythm, is precisely why this campaign is starting to generate real, measurable momentum.
We are watching the transition from a fleeting internet joke into a campaign that is genuinely disrupting the narrative structure of the election.
And the numbers back that up. It's one thing to declare your candidacy in a novelty costume for a quick laugh, right?
Sure.
But it's another thing entirely for the voting public and the financial markets to start taking you seriously.
According to The Guardian, the betting odds on Binface actually winning this seat have plummeted. They started at 51 as an extreme long shot.
Right.
But they've since slashed down to 72, with the major bookmaker William Hill offering 41.
For a satirical candidate to command those kinds of odds in a parliamentary by-election is practically unheard of.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. It indicates a massive shift in public sentiment and how people are mathematically assessing the risk of the race.
Wait, I have to push back on this a bit. Betting odds aren't scientific polls, are they?
No, they're not.
Aren't people just throwing a few quid at a joke bet to say they were part of it? Does a 72 betting line actually translate to a genuine threat at the ballot box? Or is it just the financial equivalent of a retweet?
It's a crucial distinction, you're right. You are correct that betting odds reflect where the money is going and not necessarily where the secret ballot will land.
Right.
However, in the absence of major party challengers, the betting markets become a proxy for public engagement. People are actively investing in the joke as a formalized protest vote.
Okay, that makes sense.
In political science, a protest vote is usually cast for a fringe party to signal dissatisfaction with the mainstream choices. By putting money on Binface, the public is signaling that their level of dissatisfaction has transcended standard politics entirely.
They're financially backing the absurdity.
Yes, and they aren't just betting, they are directly funding him.
Oh, yeah. He launched a Ko-Fi donation page to crowdfund his campaign deposit and expenses.
And in just 48 hours, he raised over £15,000 from more than 5,000 individual donations.
Let that sink in. The British public is eagerly throwing thousands of pounds at a recyclon.
It's wild.
And what exactly are they funding? Let's take a deep dive into the Binface manifesto, because it is a masterpiece of mixed messaging.
It bridges these grand, sweeping national ideas with hyperlocal, aggressively mundane complaints.
The manifesto is where the satire stops being purely visual and really starts to show its teeth.
Get ready for this list.
Okay, his national policies include nationalizing the singer Adele,
Naturally.
renaming London Bridge to Phoebe Waller-Bridge, after the creator of Fleabag,
Brilliant.
bringing back the defunct 1990s teletext service, CFAX, and capping the price of a 99-flake soft-serve ice cream at exactly 99p.
These are brilliant pop culture nostalgia plays. They sound ridiculous on the surface, but they evoke a strong, warm, emotional response from the British public.
They're the comedic equivalent of comfort food.
But then he zooms in and gets hyper-specific. He promises to move the hand dryer in the men's toilet of the Crown and Treaty pub in Uxbridge to a, quote, more sensible position.
He claims this minor plumbing inconvenience is a national issue.
It's so petty but so relatable.
And my absolute favorite policy of the entire campaign, he solemnly promises to build at least one affordable house.
If we unpack that specific promise, at least one affordable house, it ceases to be just a punchline.
Oh, yeah.
It transforms into a devastatingly sharp critique of the major political parties. Consider the context. For decades, traditional politicians from both sides of the aisle have stood at podiums promising to build hundreds of thousands of affordable homes.
It's a staple of every election.
Right. They publish massive white papers, they set aggressive housing targets, and they routinely, systematically fail to deliver on those targets due to zoning laws, economic shifts, and political gridlock.
The housing crisis is one of the most painful, intractable issues in the UK right now.
Exactly. So by promising to build just one affordable house, Binface is highlighting the emptiness of those grand political promises.
He's effectively saying, I will give you a target that is actually mathematically achievable.
Which inadvertently exposes the systemic failures of the actual government. He takes real-world frustration and distills it into a single line of comedy.
It's so potent that even the heavy hitters in real serious politics are getting tangled up in his narrative web.
Like who?
Well, the conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, actually went on record calling Binface the true Peepers candidate.
Oh, wow. She deliberately used the alien to undermine Farage's core claim to that exact title.
Exactly. Meanwhile, you have Prime Minister Keir Starmer at a highly serious NATO summit dealing with global security international defense treaties.
Serious stuff.
And reporters are aggressively asking him to endorse the guy with the bin on his head.
You're kidding.
Nope. Starmer had to awkwardly dodge the question, citing strict party rules against endorsing rival candidates in an active election.
It forces the establishment to interact with the absurdity on the official record. You have the prime minister invoking party bureaucracy to avoid talking about an intergalactic space warrior.
But I think the most powerful tool in Binface's rhetorical arsenal during this specific Clacton campaign is how clinically he dismantles Farage's entire identity as the anti-establishment outsider.
Oh, the LBC radio interview was a masterclass in this.
Tell us about it.
The host asks Binface about Farage framing this whole election as the people versus the establishment.
Right.
Binface doesn't just disagree, he tears the premise apart using Farage's own social calendar.
A social calendar.
Yeah. He points out that Nigel Farage regularly attends the highly exclusive Spectator magazine summer parties. He notes that Farage is a member of the elite private Garrett Club in London.
Which is incredibly exclusive.
Very. And he points out that Farage sits in the royal box at Wimbledon.
He lays out the physical evidence of elite access.
And then Binface delivers the knockout blow. He says, and I quote, "If I am part of the establishment, I'm getting NFI to a lot of the good stuff."
For our international listeners, NFI stands for not effing invited.
It perfectly exposes the inherent contradiction of modern populism.
Right.
A wealthy, highly connected politician who rubs shoulders with the upper echelons of society, claiming to be a victim of those very elites.
Binface is pointing out the obvious truth that true outsiders don't get invited to Wimbledon's royal box.
Exactly. Furthermore, Binface actively courts the exact demographic that Reform UK usually targets with hardline rhetoric, the immigrant vote, by cheerfully reminding everyone that he is, quite literally, the ultimate alien.
Though he is always quick to clarify to the press that he is strictly not an illegal one.
He diffuses the intense, often toxic tension of immigration politics with a dad joke from space.
It's brilliant. But let's get down to the brass tacks. Because the financial contrast between these two campaigns is where the architecture of this whole story really comes into focus.
The money angle is fascinating.
What does the money actually tell us about the state of this election?
Well, the financial disparity is the crux of why Binface's message is resonating so deeply with the electorate. On one side of the ballot, you have Nigel Farage, whose entire campaign is currently shadowed by the National Crime Agency investigating a £5 million cryptocurrency donation.
Which we discussed earlier.
Right. To the average Clacton voter, £5 million of untraceable digital currency is an unfathomable amount of dark money. It feels inherently suspicious and disconnected from their daily reality.
Right, people are struggling to pay their energy bills.
Exactly. On the other side, you have Count Binface going on national television and demystifying the raw mechanics of running for office. He points out that to get your name on a parliamentary ballot, it only costs a £500 deposit.
He calls the £500 a bargain, especially when he compares it to the £10,000 deposit required to run for mayor of London, which he has also done.
He relies on what he calls his space piggy bank and the small human donations from that Ko-Fi page, which he mathematically equates to the price of 3 affordable croissants.
The relatability of budgeting in terms of croissants versus millions in crypto is off the charts.
But the absolute masterstroke of his campaign strategy, the thing that elevates this from a joke to a genuinely compelling political argument, is the mathematical win-win proposition he presents to the voters.
He went on Good Morning Britain and BBC News and laid out the stark physical reality of the situation.
Right. Running a parliamentary by-election is incredibly expensive. You have to pay for polling stations, staff, ballot printing, security.
It adds up fast. Binface cites the cost to the taxpayers being somewhere between £348,000 and £380,000.
It is a massive bill that comes directly out of the public purse.
So Binface presents a logical trap. He argues that if Farage wins this election, the ongoing parliamentary and NCA investigations into his £5 million crypto finances won't just stop.
No, of course not.
If Farage is eventually found guilty of breaching electoral rules or financial regulations, he could be suspended from the House of Commons or forced to resign again.
And what happens if he's forced out? It immediately triggers a second by-election in Clacton.
A second by-election means another £380,000 billed directly to the taxpayer.
Exactly. So Binface looks directly into the camera and says, if you vote for me, an intergalactic space warrior, I promise you I won't trigger any federal investigations.
It's so logical. Therefore, voting for Binface actively saves the British taxpayer nearly £400,000 up front.
As he puts it, he saves you that money without lifting a space finger.
He even helpfully suggested that the government could stick the savings straight into the Ministry of Defense.
It is an airtight, hilariously pragmatic argument that weaponizes the language of fiscal conservatism against the populist right.
He is using the exact rhetoric of taxpayer value and efficiency to make a completely logical case for electing a sci-fi character.
Almost too perfect.
But, raising £15,000 on Ko-Fi and making logical arguments on morning television brings up a much bigger question than just public amusement.
It does.
It forces us to ask, what happens if this actually works? Because Westminster isn't a Comic-Con, it is a centuries-old institution with rigid, legally binding rules.
And this is not a theoretical joke anymore. Because of the plunging betting odds and the massive media momentum, there is a serious, genuine debate happening in the corridors of power right now about what structurally and legally happens if Count Binface actually wins the seat.
Because Parliament has rules. Very old, very strict rules regarding decorum.
Right. Under the Westminster Standing Orders, which are the written rules that dictate how MPs must behave, speak, and dress in the House of Commons chamber. Face coverings and what they officially call demonstrative dress are strictly forbidden.
You simply cannot walk into the chamber of the Mother of Parliaments wearing a plastic trash can on your head.
According to the strict letter of the law, no, you cannot. But Binface, who clearly knows his parliamentary history inside and out, immediately counter-argues by pointing out the deep, ingrained, visually spectacular hypocrisy of Parliament's own traditions.
He brings up the ultimate ace in the hole. Black Rod.
Let's explain this for our international listeners who might not watch the state opening of Parliament because it is crucial context.
Definitely. Black Rod is a senior officer in the House of Lords. And how does this highly respected official dress?
Well, in a highly elaborate, bizarre medieval costume, complete with black breeches, a sword, gold garters, and a giant ebony staff.
They literally march down the halls and have the door of the Commons slammed in their face as part of a ritual dating back to the Civil War.
Binface looks at this spectacular pantomime and says, hey, if Black Rod fits the standing orders of the building, why can't a recyclon?
He is using their own traditions to test the flexibility of the democratic institution. When the LBC host read him the exact text of the rules that clothing shouldn't be demonstrative, Binface parsed the language with the precision of a seasoned constitutional lawyer.
He latched onto the word generally. The official rule states that demonstrative dress is generally not considered in order.
Binface argues that single adverb provides him with, quote, wriggle room.
And his defense against the word demonstrative is incredible. He says, I'm not being demonstrative. This isn't a costume. This isn't a protest outfit. This is simply who I am. I am a recyclon.
And if the Speaker of the House tries to stop him from wearing his head in the chamber, that would be, quote unquote,
Binist.
it's discrimination against an alien species.
It is deeply funny, but beneath the comedy, it highlights a serious point about double standards in political institutions. Well, Binface is using this debate over the parliamentary dress code to expose the skewed priorities of the establishment. He points out that Parliament is suddenly agonizing over the strict enforcement of the clothing of a candidate, but they seem to have entirely murky, easily exploited rules and slow enforcement when it comes to politicians declaring £5 million in offshore crypto donations.
Wow. He's weaponizing political etiquette to highlight a profound lack of political ethics.
Exactly.
Let me pose a question here, because this goes to the heart of democratic theory.
Okay, go ahead.
If the British public legitimately elects a space alien in a free, fair, democratic vote, if he wins the mandate of the people of Clacton, does Parliament have the right to strip him of the very visual identity that got him elected the moment he reaches the door of the chamber?
That's a profound question.
Isn't forcing him to take off the bin suppressing the will of the voters who explicitly voted for the man in the bin?
These are the edge cases that test the true strength and adaptability of a democracy. Does the institution serve the will of the voters, or do the voters have to conform to the aesthetics of the institution?
Right. And the constitutional complications don't stop at the dress code. There's also the matter of swearing in.
Right, the oath of allegiance. Before you can take your seat and vote, every MP has to formally swear an oath of allegiance to King Charles III.
How does an intergalactic space warrior from the planet Sigma the Nice pledge his eternal loyalty to an Earth King?
The LBC interviewer pressed him on this exact logistical hurdle.
And what did she say?
Binface casually noted a widely rumored parliamentary loophole. Apparently, you can just cross your fingers behind your back while you say it.
It is the sheer surrealism of it all. You have actual elected members of Parliament, highly paid constitutional lawyers, and parliamentary clerks actively worrying and debating how to handle a man with a trash can on his head, giving highly technical speeches on foreign policy, taxation, and refuse collection.
It proves that the system is entirely unprepared for someone who uses the rigid rules of the system to mock the system itself.
It reveals a profound truth about government.
Which is?
Many of our grand political traditions and institutions rely entirely on an unwritten social contract where everyone agrees to take them seriously.
Right. The moment someone refuses to take it seriously but meticulously follows all the technical rules of entry to get inside the building, the architecture of the institution struggles to cope.
It doesn't know how to process a polite, rule-abiding saboteur.
It really doesn't.
So as we pull all these threads together to wrap up this deep dive, let's look at the incredible journey of this story.
It's been quite a ride.
We started with a local by-election, intentionally triggered by a highly controversial populist trying to dodge a massive financial scandal by forcing a media spectacle.
But that plan completely backfired. Instead of an unopposed coronation, the major parties walked away, leaving the stage wide open for a spotlight-stealing campaign by a satirical alien.
Who is currently running on a platform of price cap ice cream, affordable housing, and saving the taxpayer £380,000.
And despite the utter, undeniable farce of the situation, Count Binface himself provided a surprisingly poignant summary of what this all means during his BBC interview.
What was the summary?
He said that his candidacy, regardless of whether he wins the seat or just gets his Dolly Parton 95 votes again, proves that British democracy is, quote, wonderful and unique in the entire cosmos.
That's oddly beautiful.
Because literally anyone, regardless of their background, their financial backing, or the shape of their headwear, can stand for election. The barrier to entry is low enough that the public always has a voice, even if that voice is currently being used to make a massive structural joke.
It's the ultimate defense mechanism of a free society. If you don't like the choices, you can quite literally put on a cape and become the choice.
Absolutely.
But as we leave you today, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder. We've talked extensively about how Count Binface is the perfect satirical mirror to Nigel Farage. But think about this on a broader global scale. If voters in a major modern democracy are increasingly willing to vote for literal joke candidates over established, suited politicians, is that a sign of a healthy, vibrant democracy flexing its freedom of expression and its right to protest?
Or
Or is it a giant flashing red warning light on the dashboard of our civic life? Is it a signal that traditional politics has become so broken, so untrustworthy, and so deeply absurd that only a comedian wearing a trash can makes any logical sense anymore?
that's a sobering thought.
Think about what it actually takes for a parody to feel more authentic, more honest, and more reliable than reality.
It's a question that demands deep reflection on the state of our institutions. When the political courtroom turns into a circus, maybe the clown is the only one who truly understands the rules of the game.
Exactly. We started by talking about the gravity and decorum of a democratic election, but maybe it's time we realize the circus cannon has already been fired, and we are all just watching where the acrobat lands. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the world around you, keep looking for the absurdity in the systems we take for granted, and we'll see you next time.